Welcome to Fireside Chat. My name is Sai. I came across this CNBC article that if Congress doesn't act soon, then Social Security will run out of money by the year 2034. People on the FIRE journey, for the most part, look at the Social Security as an extra source of income or a nice to have income because we don't account for it for our early retirement. The study this article published is really interesting because according to the 2021 Social Security Trustees report, if Congress doesn't fix funding issues for the social program, retirees will only receive 78% of their full benefit starting in 2034. For the year 2022, the Social Security payroll tax rate is 6.2%, and your employer pays the other half at also 6.2%. You're going to see this on your pay stubs or the earnings statement as FICA. If you're self-employed, then you'll have to pay 12.4%. Every taxpayer, unless you work for a state that has the Social Security exemption, will pay 6.2% of $147,000 a year of an individual's annual income, and that comes out to $9,114. If you're a high income earner, and let's say you make about $200,000 a year, and that's about $7,700 in gross every 2 weeks. Your contribution to Social Security actually stops at the $9,114 mark. So you see in the September timeframe, you're going to hit anywhere between $9,000 and $9,500. So your paycheck to September 30th will be $476 more than what you normally make in take-home income because you met the $9,114 threshold in your previous paycheck. Again, this is per taxpayer, so if you and your spouse are both working, then you each have to contribute to the Social Security payroll tax. You can get this spreadsheet and other FIRE resources for free by visiting firesidechat.com/contact. So every dollar you pay into the Social Security payroll tax, 85 cents goes towards the Social Security Trust Fund that pays the current retirees and their families, or the surviving family members of workers who have passed away. If you maximize your Social Security contribution, then 85% of $9,114 is $7,746.90. I did that all in my head just now. No, not really. The other 15 cents of the dollar, or $1,367.10 you pay into the Social Security payroll tax, goes to a separate trust fund that pays benefits to people with disabilities and their families. So the money you contribute to Social Security isn't allocated to you. You and the rest of the American workers are funding these Social Security trust funds to benefit current retirees from ages 62 and beyond. So there are several contributing factors to why the Social Security funding is not going to have enough to fund the retirees. The policymakers want to make sure the workers to beneficiary ratio stays at a healthy level so they have enough workers to fund the retirees. However, there's a decreasing number of workers over the years due to the declining birth rate since the baby boomer era from 1946 to 1964. Take a look at the birth rate chart from 1964 to 2021. In 1964, it was 20 births per 1,000 people. It has been on a steady decline for the past 57 years. We're now sitting at about 12 births per 1,000 people, and that's a 40% decrease in almost 6 decades. There are so many reasons to why the birth rate is at this declining rate, but the most common reason that I hear is that they want to wait until they're financially stable to have children. So what this means is that there will be more retirees than the workers paying Social Security for the beneficiaries. At this rate, there won't be enough people paying into the Social Security trust funds decades into the future. Another contributing factor is workers deciding to retire earlier than expected. The pandemic created a mass exodus in the workforce. More than 3 million Americans decided to retire earlier than they would have due to the pandemic. That's half the 5.25 million people who have left the labor force since the beginning of the pandemic. Baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964 are ages 58 to 76. We all know that the baby boomers will continue to retire for the next 10 to 14 years. The normal retirement age is between 65 and 67. Baby boomers are leaving the workforce sooner than the normal retirement age. So another concern the government has is the younger generations like millennials and Gen Z who are saving more money. Yes, so believe it or not, these younger generations are saving and investing more money than the previous generations because they can easily access information on the internet to learn about investing, like YouTube. Gen X has slightly more money because they've had time to invest for retirement. So despite what you hear about the student loan crisis and credit card debt, millennials and Gen Z have an earlier start than baby boomers on their retirement savings. And what's more interesting from the study done by Northwestern Mutual, Gen Z and millennials on average plan to retire at age 59. That is 6 years sooner than the traditional retirement at age 65. The study also shows that these younger generations are not counting on Social Security to stick around when they turn 62, which is the earliest eligibility to become a Social Security beneficiary. They don't want to just rely on the 401k and IRAs because you can't generally withdraw from them until you're 59 and a half. They are actively investing into taxable brokerage accounts, which they can have access to without penalties. They're also finding unique ways to invest into other things like NFTs and cryptocurrencies. Retiring early for these generations will create a big problem to the government revenues, especially with Social Security and federal income tax revenues. And this is another reason why I believe the tax rate will continue to go up over the years so the government can fund the social spending programs like Social Security. Here's another contributing factor. In 2021, an average of 65 million Americans per month received a Social Security benefit. That's over $1 trillion in benefits paid during the year. I'll post this link from the Social Security Administration in the description below. 9 out of 10 people were aged 65 and older. And here's the most important note. The life expectancy of a 65-year-old is now over 20 years in the year 2021. People are living longer than they used to due to better medicine and technologies. The numbers of Americans 65 and older will increase from 57 million in 2021 to about 76 million by 2035. And there are currently 2.7 workers per each Social Security beneficiary. By 2035, there will be 2.3 workers for each beneficiary. These statistics are alarming to the government because we will have more retirees than the workers in 15 years. Here's what I think Congress will do. They will most likely increase tax revenue to cover the benefits for retirees. That's probably not something you want to hear, but I highly doubt that the government will cut Social Security benefits for the retirees, especially right now when most of the voters are ages 50 and older. Congress is already looking to pass legislation that would increase tax revenue for the Social Security Administration by raising the payroll tax income limit from $147,000. Another possibility is removing the income limit just like Medicare. House Democrats introduced the Social Security 2100 Act, which would increase tax rate to individuals making more than $400,000 a year. This legislation will require at least 60 votes from the Senate, so it needs a bipartisan support. Another possibility is to privatize the Social Security system. This would mean a private company taking control of the Social Security investment. Privately managed funds could mean increasing their payouts in retirement because Social Security right now under government control is accumulating 0.9% in annualized return. It's not even beating the normal inflation rate at 3%. However, the transition itself would probably take years and many opponents would challenge the privatization of the Social Security system. Currently, 20% of retirees rely on the Social Security income because they report it to the IRS as their sole income. What Congress could do in the future with Social Security for the millennial generation is to set age limit based on people's birth year. So this is just my thesis, but they could pass a legislation that says if you were born after 1980, then you're no longer eligible to collect Social Security benefits. I think they would keep the benefits in place for people who have claimed disability and the surviving family members. Another possibility is they could raise the age limit for people to collect the benefits. For example, it could go from age 62 to 65 or even 70. If you're on the FIRE journey, you should continue investing into your employer-sponsored plan and IRA. You can invest up to $20,500 to your 401k and $6,000 to your IRA, like I talk about in almost every video. I personally don't think Social Security will be around by the time I turn 62. If I learned anything in life, and that would be to not rely on the government to take care of me. I want to take full control of my own future. Let me know in the comment section below what you think will happen to the Social Security benefits by the time millennials turn 62. So with that said, I appreciate you watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.